Assalamu alaikum, welcome to Ahl Bayt Live on Ahl Bayt TV with me, Rebecca Masterton, and my guest tonight is Sayyid Ali Raza Rizvi. And for the first half of the program, inshallah, in the second part of the program, we'll have with us Sayyid Zafar Abbas. And we are commemorating the anniversary of the destruction of the tombs in Jannat Al Baqi in Mecca. And tonight, inshallah, we'll be discussing this issue from a range of different points. Obviously, now when we look at the situation going on in the Muslim world with the destruction of other graves and other tombs and the general carnage that's being wreaked across the world, is Jannat Al Baqi becoming a symbol for what is going on more widely? And also, is it worth calling for the Jannat Al Baqi to be rebuilt? Is it a realistic request? So inshallah tonight we'll be discussing these points, and please do feel free to call in with any questions or comments. Assalamu alaikum, welcome.
Alaikum assalam.
Thank you for giving us your time. First of all, perhaps to ask an obvious question, why is it important to remember this date of the destruction of the tombs in Jannat Al Baqi?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I think it is extremely important because we feel that it was an oppression against the Aimma alayhimus salam, even after their shahadat and martyrdom. 14 centuries later, people have still gone on to oppress them further and carry out this atrocity against the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, the family and the companions of the Holy Prophet. So therefore, we try and remember this day, and that it was another dark day in the history of the Muslims, where some people, the so-called Muslims, actually went on destroying the tombs of the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam and also the companions radiallahu ta'ala anhum.
That's right as well, because we have there's that photograph of some of the graves of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, the Imams of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, and their names are written above, just these little gravel kind of raised parts in the Jannat Al Baqi, and but also it was a time when other tombs were also destroyed. Could you possibly give a little history, perhaps? I'm sure people know the history, but perhaps for people who are watching for the first time, a little history about this piece of land and who is buried in there.
Okay, in Mecca and Medina, because they are the origins of Islamic history. The Holy Prophet was born in Mecca, then later on moved to Medina. So his forefathers, the progeny of Ibrahim alayhi salam, Prophet Ibrahim, his son Hazrat Ismail is buried inside the vicinity of Kaaba, and Hazrat Hajra, his mother, is buried there. 18 of the prophets. So you don't see any marks and signs of any of those graves. Then, had it been, for example, inside Masjid al-Haram, difficult for the people to step over it, so at least you would make a mark so people know that these are the graves. Secondly, the forefathers of the Holy Prophet, his father's grave, Hazrat Abdullah's grave, has been destroyed. His grandfather, Hazrat Abdul Muttalib's grave, has been destroyed. And all of his forefathers, they're in Jannat Mu'alla in Mecca. If you go there today, you'll see all the graves being destroyed. His first and the most important and most beloved wife to the Holy Prophet, Hazrat Khadija salam alayha's grave has been destroyed. The Prophet's two sons, they were all three of his sons, in fact, because the one in Medina, Ibrahim, his grave has been destroyed. So in Mecca, and his uncle is Abu Talib, and all others. So people, and his mother was not in Mecca or Medina. She was on the way coming back from Medina, on the way to Mecca, she died. Right. And recently, in fact, it wasn't destroyed in 1920s. It was only destroyed in the 80s or 90s. So it was much recent. And her grave has been completely destroyed. It's only a mark. It's a grave. There's no tomb on it. Now, people who remind you of Allah, their tombs should be made. But it is recounted that the common people, like us, their graves can be, simple.
Yeah,
and
right.
They will remain, so they can be reused over time. But the people who are a reminder of God to you, they're not gods. We're not worshipping them. So that's what the people who destroy them say, that this is shirk because people are worshipping them. We are saying, no, these are reminders of God, that people, human beings, can become so close to God.
Yeah.
So these are symbols of piety and of wilayat and of divinity, that these are signs of God.
Yeah.
And the Holy Quran says, وَمَن يُعَظِّمْ شَعَائِرَ اللَّهِ فَإِنَّهَا مِن تَقْوَى الْقُلُوبِ. Whoever reveres and honors the signs of Allah, indeed they are the pious, they are the devout people.
Yeah.
They are the devout Muslims. And these are the biggest reminders. The Holy Prophet and his holy progeny are the biggest reminders. His family, the entire family, is the biggest reminder of Allah. That they gave everything in the way of Allah to earn the respect and to remind people of Allah. In Baqi was there were two cemeteries. One was behind Baqi of the Jewish cemetery, the Jewish cemetery. And Jannat Al Baqi was the Muslim cemetery made by the Holy Prophet just outside Medina.
Right.
Medina was very limited. The main city. And then there were surrounding areas, farms and which were also part of Medina. And this was just outside the main town. He built a mosque inside, and those boundaries of the original mosque are still, they were present, but you can see the marks, but not the, it has been destroyed. His house, all of the houses, his house was still present. Imam Ali alayhi salam's house was still present. That has been destroyed. And then Baqi, all of the graves, because there was a tomb on top of the four Imams. There was another tomb for Aqil, Hazrat Jafar, Hazrat Aqil, all of them. So there were many, many different tombs. One tomb was for the wives of the Holy Prophet, and all of those were destroyed. So over the time, the Shias and the Fatimiyun, the Ismailis, everyone had actually built tombs over the time. And then Uthmanis came, the last dynasty, the Khilafah of Uthmania, the Turkish empire that was ruling the Muslim world, and especially Hijaz, which is the original name of Saudi Arabia. I mean, if you want to destroy the name, then destroy your own name. It was called Hijaz, and they named it Saudi Arabia, meaning the Arabia of the Saudi, Al Saud, the family of Saud.
Yeah.
So they've actually kept, their signs and marks and everything.
Yes, yes. I mean, also, it does seem quite incredible. It seems to defy logic in a way that, and does seem to be this confusion that respect is kind of confused for worship. So if you respect the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, and his family, then that is taken as worshipping him. And actually, as a result of that, this movement that started in the late 18th century has actually worked towards working against respecting the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him and his family. People actually sort of take pride in not respecting him because they are confusing respecting him with worshipping him or raising his status too high in their view. I mean, I remember it was heard that someone said that we shouldn't even refer to him as a prophet. We should just refer to him as brother. So, I mean, this seems to be quite extraordinary. That this kind of twisted logic that simply wanting to show respect, symbolic respect to the people, as you say, who gave their lives for Islam is taken as worshipping them. And I mean, really, the point now that there are, of course, these movements, and people are calling for the tombs to be rebuilt. Is this a realistic call, or is it more of a symbolic call? Because, I mean, looking at the way things are going in Arabia, they're still continuing to kind of destroy things. They've almost destroyed like 90% of everything there. So what effect does it have to call for the rebuilding of al-Baqi?
Well, basically it is both. It is realistic to an extent that because we do feel that there is this Islamic spring in all of the Arabian Peninsula, and the countries are losing all the dictators and royals, and and we do believe that the Saudi family will also go out. So it is realistic because when when they are thrown out, it is not, even if there is democracy there, then it will be rebuilt. And secondly, it is symbolic because they actually further spreading their hatred. You see, the whole ideology of the Saudis, you know, the Takfiri ideology. Many people actually do believe that if the royal family is thrown out, it will be the Takfiris who will completely take over.
Right, yeah.
And the royal family is not Takfiri, or they are not religious at all. They happen to be in a contract with the religious police and the religious authorities.
Yeah.
That it's a triangle that we are running, and we will not interfere with the religious things, and you don't interfere with the political things. But in the future, what they're planning is that they actually want to further take these into other countries. And now they've actually sponsored Syria, Libya, Egypt and other countries to destroy. And in all of North Africa, no one actually covers it now, but all the Sufis, you know, there's the saints and the holy, you know, the Ahl al-Bayt alayhim salam, their tombs have been destroyed in all of North Africa.
Yeah.
And also now they're going towards the companions and the members of Ahl al-Bayt alayhim salam in Syria and other places. They, you know, and they've already put up on their social media that we will actually enter Iraq and destroy the tombs of all the imams. So that's what they are already pledging. So it is quite dangerous. It is both symbolic and realistic. Realistic if democracy, a true democracy comes in Saudi Arabia, it will be rebuilt. And symbolic because we do not wish for it to further spread from outside, you know, to outside world, which the Saudis are now sponsoring.
Because I read that they've, I mean, of course, there's lots of rumours about who's sponsoring who. And the latest with regard to what's happening in Egypt is that they have backed the army in Egypt. So as you say, there is this split between, you know, Saudi monarchy. They're not taking the side of Ikhwan, you know, the Muslim Brotherhood. They prefer to go with the military, but I suppose they still have a similar ideology in terms of, you know, Wahhabism is quite similar to Salafism, so they still have the same idea about the status of the graves.
Well, Salafiyat, you know, you see, every 100 years or every, you know, some decades, they would change their name.
Yeah.
And it is, you know, Ibn Taymiyyah who basically laid the grounds for, you know, the strong grounds. And over the past 700 years, you know, the things have changed many a times. And at the moment, the family that is, you know, well, I don't talk too much about the Saudi family, but the ideology behind them is Salafi or Wahhabi or Takfiri. They're all the names of the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, I do personally feel that the people behind the ideology do not wish to be stopping, but they know that they've planned it to take over the most holy land for the Muslims, you know, Makkah and Medina. So they can, you know, whenever people come for Hajj and Umrah, they actually take this back and implement. Yeah. Which seems to be working for them, because they've now spread a lot of Takfiri mentality to the other Middle Eastern countries, and also they've actually taken it to
Africa as well.
To Africa, Far East, and also to Europe and America. We've had the first, you know, Shia mosque burned down in Belgium, you know, in Brussels, and the person who came in to destroy, he was very much influenced by the Takfiris, and so you have them all over the world. You know, they're not just limited and restricted to Saudi Arabia.
No, definitely it's spread across the world. I mean, another point I wanted to raise, we've got two pictures, inshallah, and I'm sure many people have seen these pictures. I hope we've got them ready. But again, just to highlight the irony of the situation, here is the tomb of Bukhari. This is still standing. So it's actually a whole tomb complex that people can visit. So this is the writer of or the composer of Sahih Bukhari, and we also have, yes, this is the nice, very marble tomb of Ibn Taymiyyah himself, which again I believe this is in Damascus, and this has got again sort of a nice green railing round it and some ferns next to it as well. Now, I would like to ask the question of people who disapprove of the ones who are destroying these graves and these tombs. How is it that the founders of your movement and the people that you respect and support, how come their tombs are still standing, but the tombs of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam and their loyal companions are not? I mean,
for Imam Muhammad ibn Ismail al-Bukhari, who is the compiler of Sahih Bukhari, he's in Uzbekistan and Tashkent, Bukhara, all of those places. Well, I would say that most of those people are Ahl Sunnah, and they do not believe in destruction of. They are just like majority of the people in India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and also in Indonesia, Malaysia. I mean, most of the Muslim world is not the belief that they should destroy.
Yeah.
So it is revered. Imam Bukhari's tomb, and not only his, but there are other tombs which are in that region, Tirmidhi and others.
Yeah.
So it is understandable that those will not be destroyed. But I'm surprised at Ibn Taymiyyah's tomb or grave, because it is in Damascus, and they are destroying all the graves. The Takfiris are there.
Yeah.
They've attacked twice within a year. This year, the tomb of the Prophet's granddaughter Zainab, Sayyidah Zainab. So they still don't actually look for some of the people who actually laid the foundations of their faith.
Yes, I mean, we know that in Damascus there again is a huge cemetery with many tombs erected for many companions. So it does seem that Hajr ibn Adi, who supported Imam Ali alayhi salam, Sayyidah Zainab, it's particular people's tombs
that are being destroyed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, very good point, very well raised. I mean, some people actually had destroyed the tomb of Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan. Right. And in recent years, I did visit his tomb, and it was rebuilt.
Right.
So it is only the tombs of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam and their lovers that are being destroyed. Unfortunately, you would see similar things happen in other places, wherever there are people who actually are very close to Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, even the Sufi saints who are not even Shias, but they're very close to their Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam very much, and they think that the Ahlul Bayt are better than everyone else.
Yeah.
Even their tombs are being destroyed.
Yeah.
And like in Pakistan, Data Sahib, Ali Hajwari, and other places, like in Libya.
Yeah,
Egypt,
North Africa.
Yeah, North Africa.
Yeah.
So all of those have been destroyed. In fact, you would be surprised that some of the tombs of some of the greatest Sufis in the Sunni world, they've actually dug them out. They've completely destroyed the graves.
Right.
And
they've taken the bodies.
So it is that same mentality you can see, and that still exists. It has been 87 years now, since 1925.
First of all, we know that there are some rulings according to certain books on not raising a grave over a certain height, and we've had quite a few programs on that, and even questioned the authenticity of those narrations that talk about not building over a grave or only having a grave of a certain height. So, these people who are trying to take over, it seems quite a strange way of trying to take over. To focus on something like this. I mean, if they want to sort of take over power or to rule, there could be so many other ways that they could direct their energies towards.
I think it is very unfortunate that these people are imposing everything. In fact, our Aimma have said not to even disrespect the disbelievers and their holy sites and sacred sites, because it would push them further away from Islam.
Yeah.
So why disrespect Muslim sites?
Thank you. We've got a caller on the line, so we'll just take this call. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
My name is Muhammad Ahmed. I'm actually a follower of the Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'at. So I'm not a Shia, but I just wanted to commend your program in regards to the condemnation of the destruction of Jannat Al Baqi and the shrines of the Ahlul Bayt. And I totally agree. And I like this, the summary by the Sheikh there about the Sufia being targeted by the Wahhabi and Takfiri Aqidah. And also, recently I saw a couple of days ago on a blog, there was a house in Yambu, which was the house belonging to Lawrence of Arabia, and it was totally desolate and destroyed last year.
Right.
And someone's posted a picture of that house this year, which the Saudi Tourism Board has totally renovated that house. And the question is Lawrence of Arabia closer to your religion than Sayyidah Fatima Zahra salamu alayha, or Imam Hassan or Imam Zainul Abidin, the graves of the Ahlul Bayt that they've destroyed? Also, recently I was in Makkah and Medina, and I have a very good friend who lives in Makkah. He's probably listening, and he's appeared on your channel last year.
Okay.
Dr. Sayyid Irfan Ahmad Alawi.
Yeah.
He is a historian on Makkah and Medina, and he has been championing and has been speaking on this issue. But unfortunately, it is only the Shia brothers and sisters that are raising this issue, and unfortunately, the Sunni, Muslims are not bringing this up enough. Especially Ahlul Sunnah and the Sufi leaders. They should be taking a stand on this. And this issue is a massive issue for us all. And recently, we were at the grave of Sayyidah Khadija Kubra in Jannat Al Mala, and you can smell the fragrance, from their graves, subhanallah. And some of the Wahhabi, the Saudi government people were there, and they just tell, we don't know who's buried here and who's not, but it's just, I think, it's really good that you are raising this issue, bringing it on the TV, but I just think that unfortunately, as a Sunni brother, I'm a bit dismayed that the Sunnis are not really caring about this and are not raising this. This should be a day of condemnation, or there should be a week every year that all the Muslims, commemorate this to bring this to the attention of everyone, what Saudi Arabia has done.
Yeah.
The other issue, sorry, I know I'm taking up a lot of your time, is that Saudi Arabia has also registered certain sites of World Heritage, for example, Al-Dariya in Riyadh, where Ibn Saud lived. But is that site more of a heritage site than the place where, say, Rasulullah ﷺ was born, or also the house where he lived with Sayyidah Khadija for 18 years, and where Sayyidah Fatima Zahra was born? They have, instead of registering that site with UNESCO as a World Heritage Site, that has become the largest toilet in Makkah. So this obviously should, any sane Muslim should understand that their ideology of hatred, and it needs to be condemned, and people need to come forward and act on this. Otherwise, it will just carry on, and it's being spread across the world, in Pakistan and other places now. So I totally agree with everything you said, and commend your programs, and just keep up the good work, inshallah, on this.
Thank you so much, and thank you for giving us some of your personal experiences as well, visiting there, because that kind of adds more to the picture, adds a greater understanding to the picture. I mean, this is also something that is quite ironic. I was just going to say something, but we have another caller, so we'll take this caller first, and then we'll continue. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
How are you doing, sister?
Alhamdulillah, hope you're well.
Wallahi, alhamdulillah, apart from just watching this, the Sunnah and Shia just fighting these differences, it drives me mad. It actually drives me mad. If they put all these differences behind, on the side, and just look ahead, and we'll be in the front nation again. Yeah,
inshallah. Yeah. What are your views on the destruction of of the graves of Jannat Al Baqi?
It is wrong. It is absolutely wrong. And to be honest with you, it's all political.
Yeah.
All political. They want the Saudi government want to wipe every single bit of history.
Yeah.
Yes.
Among the Muslims, they try to divide us as a nation.
That's very true. Thank you for your comments, and thank you for calling in as well. Said Ali Rizvi, I don't know if you'd like to comment on both of those.
Yeah, I think both of those callers have been reminded me of many things. You see, not only just the graves, because they are the biggest reminders and they're the biggest memory of those people, but also their houses and where they lived. I mean, you know, to build a toilet on top of the house where the Holy Prophet lived, and you know, where, not only just where he lived and where Hazrat Fatima Zahra was born, but also where the message of Islam started. And it was that house where people were first invited, and that's where, you know, the movement, you know, the Islamic movement, you know, the Holy Prophet ﷺ, he started that from that particular, you know, that very house had everything, and that should have been registered as a you know, most important site in Mecca after, you know, Kaaba and everything, because that's where the message started.
Yeah. I mean, sadly, we've just got 3 minutes till we have to go to Adhan. But I think, again, amazingly, as what the caller said, there's been a lot of money poured into other things, shopping complexes, as you say, Lawrence of Arabia's house.
Saud's house.
Yes.
You see, even the house of Imam Ali, okay, fine, you need to expand on Makkah and Medina, you know, the haram of, you know, Masjid al-Haram and Masjid al-Nabawi. But what about in Masjid al-Quba? You know, where the Imam Ali and Hazrat Zahra had their first house.
Right.
You know, just outside, and that was present till the 1970s and 80s, and there is, you know, they've actually destroyed it and they've built a well there, and some of the other sites that were outside the main places.
Yeah.
There was a masjid where Masjid al-Shams, you know, where Imam Ali Islam had the Holy Prophet on his lap, and he was sleeping. The Holy Prophet was sleeping. His head was on the Holy Prophet, Imam Ali Islam's lap. And when he woke up, he said, you know, what happened to the Asr? He said, I prayed it with signs because you were sleeping on my lap. So he returned the sun.
Yeah.
And that was, you know, that's where the Holy Prophet was. They've destroyed that mosque.
SubhanAllah.
So that mosque has been destroyed because it reminds the people of Ahlul Bayt Imam Ali alayhi salam.
Yeah.
Masjid al-Tawbah, you know, where only the Shias used to go there because some people had actually drunk and they had actually destroyed the alcohol. And the Holy Prophet went there with Salman al-Farisi, Imam Ali and others. So they all went there, and they you know, those people repented and they prayed for them. And Hazrat Jibreel came down. That has been destroyed because it reminds people of Ali, the Holy Prophet, and Imam, you know. So, you know, all the things that remind you of Ahlul Bayt al-Islam have been destroyed. Even the mosques have been destroyed. Mosque, you know, the Mubahala place, the plains of Ghadir. So nothing has been maintained, you know, the place of Khaybar, and so all of those have been destroyed, and which is really sad.
Thank you very much for again coming to the program and to help us to raise this issue. And sadly, we have to, well, not sadly, we are going to go to Adhan, but inshallah, I hope that inshallah we'll have you back on future programs for other issues. And thank you for your time, and thank you to our viewers who have just called in. We're about to go to Adhan down here in this part of the hemisphere, and inshallah we will see you back in about 10 minutes. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to Ahl Bayt Live on Ahl Bayt TV with me, Rebecca Masterton, and my guest is Said Zafar Abbas, who's here for the second part of our program tonight. Commemorating the destruction, or one of the main destructions, of the tombs of Jannat Al Baqi in Arabia. And tonight, again, we're going to be discussing what was Jannat Al Baqi, who was there, who was buried in there, what is its significance, and why are we remembering this particular stage of destruction that took place in 1925. And is there possibly any hope in changing the situation and in improving it? Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Thank you for coming here as well.
Thank you for having
giving us your time. Again, I guess to go back to sort of the basic questions. Why is it important to remember Jannat Al Baqi? I mean, some people might argue, well, it's still there. There are still some markers for the graves. So why are people, you know, making such a fuss about you know, building tombs or making some kind of you know, beautiful mausoleum there? Isn't it enough that there are just some markers?
there's a number of reasons why Jannat Al Baqi in particular is very important. It's one of the graveyards that the Holy Prophet of Islam himself used to frequent,
Yeah.
and there's many narrations in all narratives, both narrated by followers of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, as well as followers of other schools in the religion of Islam, which talk about the Holy Prophet of Islam's frequent attendance at Jannat Al Baqi, and from a more general scope, the emphasis that the religion of Islam places on visiting the graveyards so that people remember that this is the eventual destination. This is the eventual resting place where we're going to all one day end up. And there's many narrations to this effect, you know, visit the graveyards, go there frequently, remember death, so on and so forth. So from that point of view, graveyards generally, but Jannat Al Baqi in particular, because the Holy Prophet of Islam used to visit it, is particularly important. Now, like you say, there may be the question, or there may be the point that, well, it's still there.
Yeah.
So why do we need to? Why are we insisting on it being rebuilt, or insisting on access being restored, so on and so forth? Well, this comes back to a more fundamental point, which doesn't start in 1925, but starts much earlier than that. We see that in the lifetime of the Holy Prophet of Islam, and indeed it exacerbates afterwards, but even in the lifetime of the Holy Prophet of Islam, very, very briefly, incidentally, this month of Shawwal is associated with a couple of battles in the religion of Islam. And the most prominent amongst them, the most famous amongst them, is the Battle of Uhud, which took place on the 15th of Shawwal. And in that battle, there's a very famous or very well-known incident which takes place, which is that the Holy Prophet of Islam positions his army at the bottom of the mountain so that he is safe from three sides, but there's still one side which is open to attack. So he stations 50 of his troops there and tells them not to move unless he orders them otherwise. Of course, the battle appears to be over. They move, and the Muslims are attacked from behind. So this was the first example of mass disobedience by Muslims in the lifetime of the Holy Prophet of Islam, in that they didn't take the order of the Holy Prophet of Islam as seriously as they should have done. And later on we see this in varying stages and varying examples in different other incidents of the Holy Prophet of Islam, and particularly after the Holy Prophet of Islam passes away. What all of this shows is that it isn't just an accident, or it isn't just a point of, you know, well, this is why these things are destructed, or it's not a big deal. No, it is a big deal, because right from the time of the Holy Prophet of Islam all the way through till today, and particularly today because it's very relevant of what's going on in the world right now, is that there are two types of people who recite the kalima of the Holy Prophet of Islam. There are those types of people who believe in respect, and there are those types of people who don't believe in respect. It's very simple. Those who believe in respect, they have respect for the Holy Prophet, they have respect for the Holy Prophet's family, they have respect for his companions, they have respect for those places which are associated with these individuals, they have respect with those days which are associated with these individuals. And those who don't have respect don't have any of this. They don't have any respect for the Holy Prophet, they don't have any respect for his family, for those places, those dates that are associated with them.
Can I just say as well, once I attended a woman's house, she was going to these halaqas and was being taught, for example, that Tahiyatul Masjid is a bid'ah, etc. And one thing she said, you're talking about respect, she said she held the Holy Quran in her hand. She said, "And what is this? It's a book. Why do people put it, high up on a shelf? It's just a book." So it's very interesting, this kind of disapproval of something that is actually a very kind of natural human way of responding.
Yes. And it's very convenient that, again, this group of people who don't believe in respect, very intentionally, those who are in the know, of course those who are ignorant maybe do so out of ignorance, but those who are in the know very intentionally conflate the notion of respect with worship.
Yeah.
Now, there is no doubt whatsoever with any Muslim, regardless of which school of thought they happen to follow, that the only entity that they consider worthy of worship is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's no other thing or entity which is considered worthy of worship, regardless of which school of thought you follow in the religion of Islam. It is because of that, the fact that worship is only for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that we respect everything else. And that respect is not worship.
Yeah.
And that's very important to make clear, that respect is different to worship.
Thank you very much. And yes, I don't know, we could have books written on why respect has got confused with worship. But we've got a caller on the line. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam. How are you guys? Thank you so much for the show.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Thank you for calling in.
Yes, my question is regarding, of course, Jannat Al Baqi, but also about Jannat Al Muwala. I know that placed in Mecca, and that was also demolished and destroyed. But were they related to each other? Like, were they both destroyed at the same time, for the same reasons, by the same person? And when we commemorate or remember Jannat Al Baqi and that being destroyed, is it also the same thing for Jannat Al Muwala as well? And so it's kind of my question.
Okay.
Thank you
very much.
I was going to come to that,
yeah.
And I'm glad that the sister called in to make the point. Jannat Al Mu'alla, which is a graveyard in Mecca, was demolished at the same time by the same person, right, for the same reason, right, as al-Baqi in Medina. Jannat Al Mu'alla is a very important graveyard as well. Hazrat Abu Talib, the uncle of the Holy Prophet of Islam, is buried there. Hazrat Khadija salamullah alayha is also buried there. Hazrat Abdullah, the father of the Holy Prophet of Islam, is also buried there. And a number of noteworthy other companions, early companions of the Holy Prophet and early members of Bani Hashim are all buried in Jannat Al Mu'alla. And when we speak about the destruction of holy shrines, we're talking about both Jannat Al Baqi and Jannat Al Mu'alla, because yes, the history of course is that the current regime which occupies Hijaz had started with Karbala and Najaf. They had attacked the shrines of Amir al-Mu'minin Imam Hussain, Abu al-Fadl Abbas, and looted the gold from there. They tried to demolish them but were unsuccessful in doing so. When they were removed from there, they came to Makkah and Medina and they demolished the shrines at al-Baqi and at Jannat al-Mu'alla. Of course, Jannat al-Baqi has a closer significance, or more of a significance, to followers of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, because 4 of our infallible Imams are buried there, in addition to a number of other prominent personalities. Fatima bint Asad, the mother of Amir al-Mu'minin, is buried there. Baneen, the mother of Abu al-Fadl Abbas, is buried there. And in addition to that, however, they were, yes, and this is important to emphasize, that they were both demolished at the same time by the same person for the same reason, which, as we were discussing just before the phone call, that the excuse or the reasoning given behind the fact that we're demolishing these shrines is because people are venerating the shrines, and venerating the shrines is shirk. It is against Tawheed, worship is only for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and therefore we need to remove the shrines. Now, like I said, there's no doubt in any Muslim's mind that worship is only for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is a no-brainer.
Yeah.
This is something
Yeah.
that all Muslims believe in. And that respect and reverence is something that is, as you say, comes very naturally to a human being. You don't need to be taught it, or you don't
Yeah.
need to be educated in the fact that certain things need to be respected. This comes very naturally. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes a point of mentioning this as well. Interestingly, it's mentioned in Surah Al-Hajj, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَن يُعَظِّمْ شَعَائِرَ اللَّهِ فَإِنَّهَا مِن تَقْوَى الْقُلُوبِ. Those who respect the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is a reflection of the taqwa that they have.
Yeah.
In other words, somebody who doesn't have respect doesn't have taqwa, as far as this verse of the Holy Quran is saying. And what is sha'air Allah? Another place in the Holy Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Inna safa wal marwa min sha'air Allah.
Right.
Safa and Marwa are from the sha'air Allah. Now this is even more interesting because he doesn't say the Kaaba is sha'air Allah.
Yeah. Yeah.
He says Safa and Marwa, which is a very particularly interesting thing, because Safa and Marwa is associated with a particular act by Lady Hajara, who went running to search for water for Ismail alayhi salam. And he says that is min sha'air Allah, amongst the sha'air Allah. And indeed, anything that reminds a person of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is considered part of sha'air Allah. In tafasir we have received, it mentions very clearly that things which take you towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are sha'air Allah. Now, there's no group of individuals who take you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than the Holy Prophet and his holy progeny. And so, respect and reverence of them is, according to this verse of the Holy Quran, the reflection of the taqwa that is expected of every single believer.
Thank you very much. Excellent point and very well explained. We've got another caller on the line. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. Assalamu alaikum to Maulana Sayyid Zafar Abbas and Sister Rebecca yourself as well, Sayyid Amir from Reading.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Firstly, great show. Thank you for bringing this topic up. Obviously, it is Jannat Al Baqi week. I just want to give a message out to all of the mu'mineen that tomorrow in London there is a protest arranged, and that will be on Curzon Street outside of the Saudi Embassy, W1J 5DZ, W1J 5DZ. Just a message to everyone. If you can make it, please do come.
What time was that?
Jazakallah khair.
What time is it? Do you know?
Sorry, that would be at 12:30 tomorrow.
12:30. Okay, 12:30 p.m. inshallah, London.
Jazakallah.
Barakallahu fikum. Thank you very much
Thank you.
for calling in. Yes, I mean I was making the point earlier on in the program that doesn't it seem like a kind of useless exercise in a way? I'm just playing, the advocate here, or devil's advocate. I shouldn't say that, but what can we achieve by protesting or by raising this issue?
I think the first thing to realize is it isn't about the bricks and the mortar and the cement that's been destructed. It's about the sentiment that's behind it and the more dangerous ideology which pervades this idea. Like I said, that respect is something like we've mentioned, something that comes very naturally. It's something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala considers very important and teaches us in numerous places in the Holy Quran, telling us to respect X, Y, and Z thing. So if there's an ideology which is branding itself as Islam, yet is going against the notion of respect, is actually advocating disrespect to the Holy Prophet of Islam, his family, his companions, and to holy sites, then this is something that needs to be made aware to all Muslims. Muslims need to know that this is an ideology which may be claiming to be Islamic, but it's actually preaching a principle which is directly in contravention to what the religion of Islam is teaching. And so by emphasizing this particular day of the 8th of Shawwal is not to say we're sad because a couple of buildings are destroyed. No, we want to raise awareness of the fact that this is an ideology which claims to be Islamic, but is preaching principles which run contrary to the religion of Islam according to the Holy Quran, the Holy Prophet and his holy household. And it is much more important in today's day and age, where this particular ideology is now spread all over the world.
Yeah.
And is creating havoc in different parts of the world. It's the same ideology, it's the same sentiment which runs behind all of these things. And it, you know, we have to make the point loud and clear that the origination of terrorism comes from this ideology which advocates disrespect to the Holy Prophet of Islam and his holy progeny. And the first victims are the holy household themselves. The first victims of this ideology, of this group of people and these ideas are the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, and then their followers. So it is important that we make this point and say, look, we are victims of these individuals, and yesterday we were, today somebody else will, and tomorrow the whole world will be a victim of these people if their ideology isn't stopped. So and the only way it's going to happen is when Muslims stand up and be united and say, we will not allow this group of people to represent us, because at this moment in time, this ideology is clearly representing a lot of Muslims who don't want to be represented in this way. But because they're silent, they are able to take advantage of the fact of their silence to represent them on their behalf. And that is allowing them to spread their ideology in different parts of the world. So it is imperative, all the things that we're seeing right now in this particular moment in time, whether it's what is happening in Lebanon, or what's happening in Egypt, or what is happening in Syria, or what is happening in Iraq, are all directly related, without a shadow of doubt, to what has happened some 9 decades ago, which began with the destruction of holy shrines at Mecca and Medina. And so it is imperative for us to realize that it's not just about that destruction that took place, a historical incident that happened. No, it's about something that continues to remain as relevant today as it ever has been. That here are people who are acting in the name of the religion of Islam and taking advantage of people who are silent. And claiming to represent them when in reality this is not the case. So it's imperative that Muslims of all, and when I was listening earlier on in the program, we had somebody from the Ahlul Sunnah who called in and mentioned that, you know, this is something that is not limited to followers of Ahlul Bayt, and it's imperative that message is goes out loud and clear, that it's not about this particular sect or this particular idea which believes in this, or this particular idea which doesn't. No, it's about what the religion of Islam teaches. Because again, when you come into Pakistan over the last 18-24 months, shrines of Sufi saints have been attacked, which are frequented not by followers of Ahlul Bayt, but by members of Ahlul Sunnah in Pakistan. But what is being made abundantly clear by these hate-filled individuals is that we don't care what you believe in or what you follow. If it goes against what we believe in, then we will make you the target of attack. So it's imperative then that Muslims stand up together on this particular issue and say, well, no, we will not allow your hate-filled rhetoric to represent the religion of Islam to non-Muslims, or to represent us to other people, or to represent people who are not followers of Ahlul Bayt Islam as a whole, because you are not the majority in that. To represent them.
That's an irony as well, that they are a minority. And I remember actually, quite contrary to, I mean, often again we see in the books of Ahlul Sunnah the narrations stick with the majority, the interpretation of the word jama'ah. But I remember actually reading online how followers of this school were taking pride in being a minority. So I don't know, perhaps that they didn't believe that narration for them is authentic, but it's like, we are, again, you know, the minority that's on the true path and everyone else is misguided. But something else that I was going to bring up. I mean, obviously we know that what's going on in Mecca, it's being sort of completely transformed quite horrifically in some ways. And some people are noting how, I mean, as said, Ali Raza Rizvi said earlier, the last kind of rulership to preserve the tombs and architecture of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam was the Ottomans, and it's quite interesting that, you know, obviously if we're looking at kind of historical politics, the Saudis were directly opposed to the Ottomans. They wanted to get the Ottomans out of Arabia, and the British actually helped the Saudis to get the Ottomans out of Arabia. And now what's going on in Mecca is a lot of these things that are being destroyed are actually Ottoman, I notice. You know, a lot of the kind of the architecture and the arches and everything are being destroyed. And before you answer that, we have a caller on the line. So we'll just take this first and then we'll continue. Assalamu alaikum.
Yes, walaikum assalam. I want to say that I totally agree that they should actually restore Jannat Al Baqi, so that we all can go and visit the graves and get closer and be able to pray there. But what I'm wondering is, how about talking about women's rights to the grave of our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Last year I went to Hajj and I was so shocked that I wasn't even allowed to go close to it. And when women were allowed to come somewhat close to it, they were running like cattle, and it was so demeaning. The whole thing was so demeaning. So how about also trying to get the Saudi authorities to give us our rights to visit our Prophet's grave, and in a more humble and decent way be able to visit it?
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. That's a good point, sister. Thank you for calling in with that. I mean, that's also based on certain narrations, isn't it, that they believe are authentic, that women shouldn't visit the graves?
Again, the Holy Prophet of Islam is in his grave like he was when he was alive. Yeah. And it's very well known that women used to come and visit the Holy Prophet of Islam in his lifetime, and so it should be no different now that he has passed away. The point, of course, like I said, is it runs much deeper than that. It's about the fact that there should not be any reverence shown to the Holy Prophet of Islam. And if people get close to the grave, then they will show reverence. Yeah. And this is what they don't want. Yeah. So this is why it's imperative that we raise awareness about the fact that this is a group of people who are completely against reverence of any kind. I remember reading many years ago when a person had accepted the school of Ahlul Bayt and, as the sister mentioned, went for Hajj and was very shocked to see what had happened there. And at this particular moment, and I'm quoting this because you know, it's a very interesting insight from somebody who had just come to the school of Ahlul Bayt, and they said that when I got there and I saw the attitude that was on display, and remember this was many years ago, this is not today, this is many years ago. Said I saw the attitude that was on display, I could realize that the authorities were only interested in this as a business venture. The fact that if it was not making them money, they would have had no hesitation in destroying the Kaaba and the Masjid of the Holy Prophet as well. You know, they would not have just stopped at Jannat Al Baqi. They would have gone even further into destructing all of these places because they have no concept of respect and reverence to anything. So it is imperative, therefore, that we raise this awareness. We say that here are people who have no time even for the Holy Prophet of Islam. Forget everybody else. Forget Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. Here is the single most important person in the religion of Islam without whom nobody would have been a Muslim. And yet here are people who are actively promoting the ideology that the Holy Prophet of Islam was a postman. He came, he delivered the message, and now he's gone. And there's no need for him anymore. even though the same Holy Quran is telling us that the Holy Prophet of Islam, addressing the Holy Prophet of Islam, if only they had come to you and asked you to ask Allah for forgiveness. It's Surah 4, verse number 64. If only they had come to you and asked Allah to ask for forgiveness, then they لَوَجَدَ اللَّهُ تَوَّابًا رَحِيمًا, they would have found Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be forgiving and merciful because you prayed for them.
Yeah.
That's how important the Holy Prophet of Islam is as far as Allah is concerned.
It's ironic that you have to sort of explain how important he is.
And this particular verse was revealed when a group of hypocrites were trying to kill the Holy Prophet of Islam, and the Holy Prophet was made aware of this, and this verse was revealed that even if those people who were trying to kill you came to you and asked you to ask for forgiveness, it doesn't get much severer than trying to kill the Holy Prophet of Islam. If they came to you and they asked you for forgiveness, and you prayed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive them, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would have forgiven them, even though their plot and their crime was so severe. So this is what the Quran is saying about the Holy Prophet of Islam. And yet here is an ideology which is actively telling us that there's no time for the Holy Prophet of Islam in this religion.
Thank you very much. And we have another caller on the line. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum, Sister Rebecca. How are you?
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Alhamdulillah, I'm very well.
Right. I just really appreciate what you are doing, and I hope you keep up, because I really want you people to educate people and bring it to light to everybody that what has happened, and we have to stop it. Because the next thing is going to be the grave of Nabi Pak sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Because in 2011, I was at Hajj when I saw the big bulge on the dome, and I asked people what has happened here, and they told me that they were trying to demolish the green dome of Nabi Pak sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And there was this man who was with his drill machine on top, which the officials had sent. And while he was drilling, he got electrocuted and he died instantly, and he fell off the dome. And so they tried it several times, and that's why they stopped. And if we don't educate people and we don't keep on it, but I saw this in 2011, and I mean to say, Osama was with us in that Hajj group, and he was arrested as well because he was just reciting ziyarat, nothing else. And
I remember that.
So, yeah, this is what I'm trying to say. It is terrible. It's becoming terrible. We can't even sit down in any place at all in Medina just to recite any du'as. Not Ziyarat Shura, but any dua at all, I mean. So they won't let us sit when they know, these are Shias sitting there, and they would bring the big machines of the cleaning, they have those, and they will drive through us, and they'll make sure that they would come right next to us, that they were going to run us down, and we would just run from there and go and sit some other place. And they would disperse us like this. But what I'm trying to say, that this is where we're talking about rebuilding Baqi. Rebuilding Baqi, I don't know how much we are going to have joy in that, talking about that. But the most important thing for me is how to save Prophet Nabi himself. Leave alone anything else, because these people, you're absolutely right, they're there to make money. Otherwise, they would have demolished Kaaba. I absolutely agree with that. They would have, because they're trying to demolish Nabi Pak, because they're saying, don't look at these people, just look at us. What are you? Nothing. Why would we look at you? We just want to go there for Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
That's true.
Yeah, and now they have even given right to go and even look at the imams. And why did we go to the Nabi of to his grave? If the women were not allowed, then Janabi Sayyida would not have been allowed to go there at all.
True, yeah, good point.
So I just don't understand all this at all, and I hope that you do something good. Pass on.
Inshallah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your call and sharing your thoughts and experiences as well. But yeah, that's true that they have wanted to destroy the tomb of the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him and his family. I mean, one thing I think that should be brought to light as well is the resistance of the people of Medina, because I remember hearing some years ago how the authorities wanted to paint the roof silver, the dome silver. And it was the people of Medina who fiercely protested against that, and so they kept it green, colour of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. And the people of Medina have done quite a lot to, try to prevent. Otherwise, it would have been probably a wholesale destruction by now.
Yeah, I mean, it has been the pressure that they felt from people of Medina, but also Muslims around the world, about this particular issue. Coming back to what we were talking about earlier about the Ottoman Empire, the Ottoman architecture, that's a very important point, because if we again look at a very potted history of what happened to the Muslim world after the Holy Prophet of Islam, so after the reign of the Khalifas, we came to the reign of dynasties. So we had the Umayyad dynasty, and then we had the Abbasid dynasty, which ran for over 400 years, and then we had varying other dynasties which existed in parts of the Muslim world, and the final dynasty, as we know, was the Ottoman dynasty, which ran all the way up to the 20th century. And under that, under the Ottomans, the Arabian Peninsula was governed by governors from different regions in the Muslim Empire. And of course, it was recognized, as with previous governments, that Mecca and Medina were shrines and sites which were holy to all Muslims, not just to people from one particular area or one particular region. And that of course changed with the end of the Ottoman Empire and the role of the family of Saud, Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, and the colonial powers, and what this did was Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab provided the ideology, and Al Saud provided the manpower to rule the country, and of course the colonial powers provided the blessing. And what this did was that Al Saud were now the custodians of the holy shrines, Khadim Haramain Sharifain, even though they had no right or no claim over being custodians of the holy shrines. The holy shrines belong to all Muslims. And there had been, when Al Saud took over Hijaz, protests from people, from Muslims in other countries, saying, well, Makkah and Medina, the Holy Kaaba and Masjid Nabawi are sacred to all Muslims, and they should be placed under the control of independent individuals from different parts of the Muslim world. There should be a rotation, so that all Muslim countries are represented in taking care of those shrines. Yet they have taken over the custodianship of the holy shrine, and have decided to do whatever they see fit with those shrines. That, of course, has allowed them the monopoly to do whatever they want and to export those ideas to other people around the world.
To the rest of the world. Thank you very much, and we'll continue with our discussion. We've just got another caller on the line now. Assalamu alaikum.
Yes,
Wa alaikum salam.
Yeah, sorry, my name's Nadeem. I'm calling from Birmingham.
Welcome. Thank you for calling in.
Yeah, see, I'm a little bit confused, really. Do we worship Allah, or do we worship the actual, the shrines, or do we, what? We're Muslims, aren't we? Why are we concerned about, different, sort of symbols of Islam? Why are we worried about the symbols of Islam? I mean, the Quran is full of, worshipping God. Don't associate partners. So why are we worried about these symbols? Why?
Okay.
I don't understand it. I'll give you an example. My dad's a Sunni and my mum's a Shia. And they're having these arguments, silly arguments all the time. And I don't understand why. Why are we worried about symbols? Why?
Yeah. Okay, thanks. That's a very good question. I'm sure a lot of people who are watching also have the same questions. I was kind of asking some of those questions earlier on. I mean, you were answering actually, says Zafar Abbas, with verses from Holy Quran.
I mean, like I said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, this is verse 32 of Surah Al-Hajj, as we mentioned earlier on the show. I don't know if the brother was watching or not. وَمَنْ يُعَظِّمْ شَعَائِرَ اللَّهِ فَإِنَّهَا مِنْ تَقْوَى الْقُلُوبِ. Those who respect the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is a reflection of the taqwa that is in their hearts. This is not me speaking.
Yeah.
This is a verse of the Holy Quran. And like I said, Surah 4 verse 64 talks about people coming to the Holy Prophet. Allah says, come to the Holy Prophet, tell him to ask for forgiveness. And if he asks forgiveness for you, then I will forgive you. Surely you should say, come to me for forgiveness.
Yeah.
No, he's saying, come to the Messenger of Allah so that you realize how important he is in this religion. And when he says, respect the signs of Allah, why should we respect the signs of Allah? No, respect the signs of Allah because respect and reverence is part of this religion. We're ordered to respect and revere. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, again, another place in the Holy Quran, وَلَا تَعْبُدُ إِلَّا إِيَّهُ وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. You will not worship anyone except for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And right after, you will show good manners, good etiquette, respect and reverence to your parents. So this tells us that straight after, and like I said, there's no conflation between worship and respect other than by those who intentionally want to obscure the meaning.
Yeah.
We wouldn't use two different words if it was the same.
Yeah.
There clearly is something different. And as far as signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are concerned, these are supposed to be things which take you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And respect and reverence is completely a part of this religion, where we're told to respect and revere the elders, we're told to respect and revere those who are younger than us.
There are also many other verses in Holy Quran that also are telling the Muslims to respect the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, and saying, like, don't raise your voice.
Yes.
Don't just go and sit in his house and chat. Make sure you knock before you enter. Disperse after you've eaten. Don't hang around. And many other things. I mean, as you say, respect is a part of this message, and showing respect for people. And I would like to turn the question around and say, why shouldn't we respect the person who brought the message of Islam?
Indeed.
Why shouldn't we respect the people who died for Islam?
Yes, and as I said, it is not about the bricks and the mortar and the buildings and the shrines and the gold and the silver and the metal. It's not about these things.
Yeah.
It is about the ideology and the ideas which exist behind it, which are pervading Muslim countries and non-Muslim countries and creating havoc in the world. Today, whether it's in Lebanon, whether it's in Egypt, whether it's in Syria, whether it's in Iraq, whether it's in Pakistan, whether it's in Bahrain, whether it's even on the streets in London, all of this is directly related to that particular incident and the idea that exists behind it.
Thank you very much. That's an excellent clarification. As Sayyid Zafar said, it's not about the buildings, it's about the ideology of disrespect and destruction that is lying behind that. Thank you very much, Sayyid Zafar Abbas. And inshallah, we will see you again next week. Assalamu alaikum.